Hey man, it's Kevin Smith.
Hey, this is Jay Music.
Hey, I'm Scott Snyder.
I'm Cena Grace.
And you're listening
to The Absolute Geek.
The Absolute Geek.
Absolute Geek.
Absolute Geek Podcast.
Check it out, Snoogans.
Well, our comic topic of the week this week is
Kyle and his incorrect statements.
The difference between a cameo and a first appearance and the politics behind it.
It's not really the politics behind it. I mean, if you want to get into politics behind it, we can, but...
Well, every time you talk about that topic, the politics behind it are going to come up. But it is definitely an important topic that people that are, just kind of getting into comic book collecting need to know about, because it could be a game changer on what you collect and what you don't collect. Go ahead, Matt.
I had the epiphany on Wednesday when I'm sitting here reading comics, after picking up my new books, and I'm looking at, so I picked up Turtles 96, and my thought process is, you look at all these comic books and there's always that debate of first appearance versus cameo. So like Hulk 180 is considered Wolverine's, I don't know if they call it the first appearance or the cameo, but it's not.
They call it a cameo,
but it's not as expensive of a book as 181. When you have so there's that, and then you have like Mary Jane. She makes her appearance in Spider-Man. I can't remember what her first appearance is, but they call it a cameo because she's got a flower over her face, and her actual first appearance isn't for like 17 more issues. And it's the same thing. It's one panel on the end, and it just finally shows her where she says, "Face it, Tiger, you've hit the jackpot." So I'm looking at Turtles 96 or 95. They're toting that as the first appearance of Jennica as the fifth turtle. But it's the last panel on the end as she's being transformed. So my thought process is, wouldn't that be considered a cameo in 96, which actually has like 6 or 7 panels of her as a turtle? Wouldn't that be considered her first full appearance?
Yeah, that's what most people go with. And again, this is getting into the politics behind it. This is a very hot topic, especially in the speculation game. It always draws ire of certain people, because when it comes down to it, the bottom line is collect what you want to collect. And some people like myself, I enjoy finding those cool cameo first appearances, or whatever you want to call them. I call them cameo / first appearances. But I enjoy finding those just because there's different types of cameos, in my opinion. And Matt was 100% right. The biggest way to explain this, and the biggest one that people use, is the Incredible Hulk 180, which shows the Wolverine in the very last panel on the last page, like, oh, who's coming next issue? And there's Wolverine type thing. And then 181, of course, is his first full appearance and first cover appearance. There was, and this is where we get back into different types of cameos, there was a cameo before 180, multiple cameos. But the biggest ones that people like to talk about are a Thor book, a Daredevil book, and then there's another one, and I'm spacing on it right now, which I usually don't do. But in these certain books, there's an advertisement that shows Wolverine coming in Hulk 181, and that was advertised months before Hulk 180. So some people like to consider those cameos. Also, some people like to consider cameos appearances in magazines like previews, first appearances and previews. Are those considered a cameo, or are those considered a first appearance? Also, things like Comics Interview Magazine, or those other, Wizard magazines. Sometimes first appearances are in those. There's also sometimes first appearance / cameos in free giveaways. So it can be a very tough topic to talk about, but it's all about what you want to collect. And if you really are a first appearance guy and you're all about, having that first appearance, the bottom line is the market will say what is the first appearance that everyone wants to go by. And that market is what's important. What are people buying? So if you say people want the first appearance of Wolverine, they're mainly buying Hulk 181. people want the first appearance of Taskmaster, they're buying Avengers 196, even though he appeared in the last panel in Avengers 195.
Well, here's the thing. Here's a good one. Gambit with Avengers Annual 14. He's in a handful of panels, but that's not considered his first appearance. His first appearance is considered an Uncanny X-Men.
You're 100% right, Matt. Again, that's the whole thing. It's such a big issue in comics, the whole cameo first appearance thing.
So if you're a new collector out there who is looking to collect and they want to try to collect first appearances versus cameos, I mean, what are some rules of thumb that you as a collector go by?
Again, first rule of thumb: collect what you want. If you think cameos are considered first appearance, collect those. If you think first full appearances are the first appearances, collect those. Number two, the market will dictate what the market thinks the true first appearance is. So again, you have a majority of people who say this is the first appearance. That's what the market's going to say is the first appearance. And it changes. It does change. And so you got to be aware of that. Here's a perfect example. Back in the late 90s or mid 90s, sorry, I thought Harley Quinn was going to be a superstar of a character. This is before anybody really knew much about her. All we had was the animated series. And back then, Wizard basically was saying, and she wasn't a big character yet, but Wizard was basically saying that the prestige format Mad Love is Harley Quinn's first appearance, her origin and first appearance. Nobody knew about Batman Adventures 12. As a matter of fact, if you go look in old Wizards, they don't even list Batman Adventures 12. They don't even list it, yet alone list it as a first appearance of Harley. Very few Wizards will you find where it even says Harley's in that issue, because they don't even list it in most Wizards. So they didn't know about that at the time, or the market didn't consider that the first appearance. So I went heavy on Mad Love. I bought probably 10 copies of Mad Love, put them away. And then all of a sudden, years later, Batman 12 comes out, and here I am. Mad Love is still worth something, but it's worth 10 times less than Batman Adventures 12. And if you look at Batman Adventures 12, Harley really only appears on the cover. So that's kind of the thing. The market dictated which is the first appearance of Harley in that case. Whereas in the past, it used to be Mad Love. Now the market's saying, no, it's Batman Adventures 12. Here's a perfect example of with Harley Moore. There's other first appearances of Harley that came before Batman Adventures 12. There's a comic book / cassette tape thing that they put out that has an early appearance of Harley. And then there's there's a comic magazine that they put out that has an early appearance of Harley. So my advice on the best place to find these cameos and first appearances is to follow Topher at CBSI and Comic Book Invest. Topher has basically been the ultimate one-stop shop for finding these cameos and early appearances. And for new books, if you follow Comic Book Invest, he's always got an article called True Firsts, where he'll talk about new, like, for instance, I'm sure he's done one on the Turtles and this Jenica, is that her name, Matt?
Yeah.
So I'm sure he has something about that he's talked about, where he's brought up, Jenica was in the issue way back when, but not as a turtle. So is that considered Jenica's first appearance, but not as first appearance as a turtle? So you get into all these little weird things. But those are my 3 things to take away from this. 1, collect what you want to collect and what you enjoy. 2, the market truly dictates what the first appearance is, and first appearance is that's worth anything at least, and that changes. And 3, follow Topher on Comic Book Invest and the True Firsts. Kyle, you got any thoughts on that? I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. So everybody also, again, remember that Bird City Comics and will be on next week, and we will talk about live auctions. What do you think, Kyle?
I think you summed it up pretty good.
Yeah. Matt brought up a good point with Gambit. That's another great one. There's so many good things where people talk about, cameos and first appearance, and it can be a little draining sometimes because the same arguments as people complain about. But I enjoy those things. I enjoy searching out those early cameos. And if you're a real big fan of certain characters, why not have all the first appearances?
Well, that's what kind of started Liefeld off on his fucking Twitter down spiral, was that he was saying that Major X's first cameo was part of a different book, and he's saying no, it's not. It's Major X #1. So he kind of fed into that. So I just figured it was a good. I kind of wondered about that when I was on the comic store, because how do you differentiate a cameo between a first appearance? Because to me, a first appearance is going to be, regardless of how long they're in the book, the first time you see them in an issue, that's their first appearance.
Yep. Yeah. There you go. My brother just brought up the Wolverine thing. He didn't hear us, so even my brother, who's not a comic collector, knows about the whole Wolverine thing. So it's a pretty big topic, and it's an important topic. It's a very important topic, and something that you guys should know about.